Well, that's big news coming in here on India Today Global after Trump confirmed his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It is now confirmed that Kamala Harris is also going to be in New York for an event on the 22nd of September. So there could be a likely meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Vice President Kamala Harris. That's news that that our correspondent on the ground, Rohit Sharma, just broke a while ago. Rohit Sharma is joining me from the ground from actually the hotel in Delaware, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be landing in an hour or so. And he will be reaching that hotel. Lots of color, Rohit, I can see right behind you. We'll come to that. Lots of ladies and all their fineries come. Brilliant. So we'll go to them in just a bit, Rohit. But before that, you just broke the news about a likely meeting between the Indian Premier and the Vice President of America. Take us through what's really happening. A confirmation that came from Donald Trump, which was not to have been announced. And now we're getting news that Kamala Harris is going to be in New York the same time around.
Yeah, interesting development, Geeta. Everybody's been tracking about if the Prime Minister will end up meeting Donald Trump. If he's going to meet Donald Trump, will he be meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris? And this morning, a very close source in the campaign told us that she's going to be in New York. She will be in New York for a private fundraiser. Now, nobody's confirming if she's going to be meeting Prime Minister Modi, but I think there are breadcrumbs everywhere to see, what can it become eventually. She's going to be at this fundraiser in the afternoon, and that there are no set plans after that. And if you look at Prime Minister's schedule also, the Prime Minister has a meeting at 4. So a lot has to be, a lot can be deduced from what's going on. We also know that Donald Trump's going to be in New York as well. So looks like both the meetings are on the cards. Nobody is obviously coming on the record to say it, because these are obviously, you have to understand, these things could change last minute, until and unless it happens, we would not know. But looks very likely that the Prime Minister will end up meeting Vice President Kamala Harris and President Trump tomorrow in New York.
Okay, that's the big news that we're breaking here on India Today Global. We will be discussing those details. But before I go further on the diplomacy front and the Quad conversations, because Jake Sullivan has also just spoken in a background briefing, and Rohit Sharma attended that. So we'll break down those details for you. But before that, look at the color behind. There are women who are waiting to welcome Prime Minister Modi with flags of India and America. Rohit, take us through. What do the women have to say?
So where are you from, man? Like what?
From Delaware.
So you're from Delaware? All of you guys are from Delaware? You're from Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay.
Wilmington, Delaware.
And what brings you back here? Like, I'm just, obviously Prime Minister, but like, what's the attraction towards the Prime Minister? Like, why?
He's the Prime Minister.
Modi.
We're all born in India.
Yes, we
So
all
we represent India also in America.
He's the hero of our country.
And it's an honor for us to see him here in Delaware.
Okay.
And especially some of it's Gujarati people.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially he's from Gujarat.
Yes.
He's Prime Minister of our beloved country, India. So yes.
And what preparations you have? You're all decked up. Are you going to be performing Garba? Like what? Can you do something for us? Okay, Geeta, they're going to do a little Garba for us. If that's okay.
Absolutely, that's brilliant, Rohit. That's brilliant. Let's just do that. Let's just see the ladies perform.
Ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, and 1, 2. We gotta go in a circle. All right, let's go.
So as you can probably behind me, there's Garba right now on the streets here in Joe Biden's home state. We have Garba to welcome Prime Minister Modi, and all these ladies, some of them from Pennsylvania, some of them from Delaware itself, are here right now at the DuPont Hotel to welcome Prime Minister Modi.
Well, Rohit,
Thank you.
So there you have it. The Prime Minister is about to land here, and as you can hear, everybody loves Modi ji here in the US. Are you guys going to be at the Sunday event also, where Prime Minister Modi is speaking? Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, Rohit,
You didn't get the tickets?
No.
Oh, so your tickets
Rohit,
were
before
priced.
they leave, Rohit, before they leave, just ask them a quick question.
Yes.
Biden's hometown, they're there. How does it feel to be there? And the Biden-Modi meeting is going to take place. How excited are they? What do you think the outcome is going to be when it comes to India-US ties?
Can't wait to see
It's
it.
going to be a very friendly commitment they'll be having. So the ties are going to be very strong, for sure.
But then it's Biden's hometown.
Yes.
So what do you think about U.S.-India relationship? And again, this is an election year, so just trying to understand all of that from you guys. Who are you guys supporting in the election, anyways? I put them on spot, Geeta. I shouldn't have done that. But in general, the Geeta's question was about
we obviously love Biden. We are
Yes,
from Delaware.
we're
He's from
from
Delaware.
Delaware.
So yes, we definitely love him, and we are so happy that the connections between India and US is so strong. And we hope that it continues like this in the future.
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
And
So
they declared
we hope that it
Delaware
continues. I think we gave you a hint.
Okay.
Delaware is a sister state.
Yes.
And are you guys excited about Kamala Harris?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
She's a woman first.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
Rohit,
Geeta.
continuity. One of the ladies quite clearly hinted continuity is what they're looking at. So
Yeah.
that's quite clear. But then let's go to the news that you were just breaking. Kamala Harris, Prime Minister Modi meeting that could be likely on the sidelines of the meetings and the events that Prime Minister Modi is going to attend in New York. That's quite crucial because the Indian side, Rohit, wants to meet both or neither. It does not make sense to meet one presidential candidate and not the other. And Trump himself came out and confirmed that he is going to meet Prime Minister Modi. Was there a rush then to have a confirmation from Harris's team as well?
Well, I know, Geeta, for a fact on the background that the Indian side wants or wanted to meet both.
Okay, we seem to have lost that connection. We'll try connecting back with Rohit, but that's the big story that the Indian side did want to meet both at such a crucial juncture when India wants good ties with anybody who's in power in Washington, D.C. It's very difficult to then just meet one and not the other. Should Kamala win and Trump not win the elections, then this would be a very uncomfortable position for India to be in. So the idea was that Prime Minister Modi is to meet both the presidential candidates. The word must have gone to both the sides, and Trump immediately announced it at one of the events. The visuals that we're showing are of, again, this was a very crucial visual. This was a very crucial meeting. It happened in 2023 when Prime Minister Modi was in the US for his first state visit to the United States of America. However, he has visited US a lot many times before, since the time he took office in 2014. But the first state visit happened only in June of 2023. And there was a lot of speculation on what the meeting between Kamala Harris and Narendra Modi would look like, all because of the kind of ties that the two sides share, in a way that Kamala Harris has been quite critical in many ways of, or questioned the situation, particularly on the human rights front in India. So to lay all those speculations and controversies to rest, the Vice President not only met Prime Minister Modi, but also hosted a lunch for him at the State Department. And those were visuals of Kamala Harris hosting Narendra Modi, the Vice President and the Prime Minister of India. And now we're given to understand that there is a very important issue when it comes to India and the Indian Americans or the Indian diaspora in the United States of America, that both camps are not just trying to woo but also engage. And therefore, meeting both sides would be important. Remember, there was a time when Prime Minister Modi had actually gone ahead and endorsed Donald Trump in one of the rallies. And the same happened when President Trump had come to India. The endorsement was both ways. But this time around, taking no chances, it's neck to neck, and therefore, the Indian side would like to meet both the sides. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, will be landing in Delaware shortly. Now, what's happening over here? We'd like to get a word from Rohit as well, asking him to join the conversation, and he will be joining us in just a bit. But there is some more information and news that's coming on the Quad meeting. Okay, Rohit joins us back. Rohit, I was just taking our viewers through the nitty-gritties and the nuances of what really happened. June 2023, the first state visit of Prime Minister Modi. He had visited before, but that was his first state visit. And despite all the speculation or the controversies surrounding Kamala Harris and her position and stance in the past on the human rights record in India, she did host a lunch for the for the prime minister
Prime
at the
Minister.
State Department. And now we are seeing a likely meeting. So take us through what really happened. You were explaining what the Indian side really wanted, and then we'll talk about the Quad meeting and your the interaction with Jake Sullivan.
Well, look, so as I was saying, and apologies, I had some disturbance here, but as I was stating, the Indian side definitely wants to meet with both of them, and not just one, because it would send a wrong political message. Although President Trump did put it out there and said, that he's going to be meeting Prime Minister Modi, I think the Indians were absolutely worried about just meeting one leader. And it is possible now that we know that he's going to be possibly meeting both of them tomorrow. Now, we do also know for a fact that if one of them backs out, if one of the political leaders back out, I don't think he's going to be meeting with either of them. But I think as the development goes right now, I think with Kamala Harris being in New York, with President Trump going to be in New York, I think it is very likely that they both will be meeting with Prime Minister Modi tomorrow, and it's likely to happen after the diaspora event. As far as the Quad goes, Geeta, a lot of announcements made by Jake Sullivan on that call. He talked about expanding Quad, announcing the Quad Coastal Guard exercise. He talked about how the countries have their own set of rules when it comes to diplomacy and with China. A lot of times, and a lot of journalists, we all ask them about how this is not upsetting China or how this alliance is not upsetting China. But Jake Sullivan there, as always, the Americans talk about how this is not to isolate the Chinese. But look, anybody who's followed Quad over the years understands that this is an alliance to counterbalance the Chinese influence when it comes to Indo-Pacific. Very importantly, also, the word Indian Ocean was thrown a lot in the conversation today and yesterday about how, with India's participation and India's leadership, the Quad will expand itself into the Indian Ocean with the help of Indians and Australians. Announcement about expanding the Quad fellowship to Southeast Asian countries. So a lot of focus on that, and also, highlighting the fact that Joe Biden was committed to Quad and how under his presidency, the Quad has become a more, a collaborative alliance, an alliance that, is close to Joe Biden's heart. And the fact that Joe Biden is hosting these leaders at his home for his last Quad summit tells you how dearly he believes in the purpose of Quad and the value and contribution of Quad towards Joe Biden's own foreign policy.
Well, again, a very important point that comes out of the Sullivan interaction is the fact that he's talking about expansion of Indo-Pacific maritime capabilities. Now, that's very important because it is not a military bloc. Very clearly, they've said this is not an anti-China bloc. Also, very clearly, they've said, but they are looking at improving maritime capabilities and the security architecture. How is that really working out for the Quad leadership?
Well, look, a very thin line, right? I think the fact of the matter is there was a follow-up question asked to him, and he said, well, it will help them with, dealing with natural disasters in the region or any kind of coordination. He talked about, well, look, we will be during the COVID, we had this COVID, program within the Quad. So yes, very, very, very thin line to balance right there. But again, I think a lot of people, especially, this, Geeta, I think they don't want to call it a military alliance for obvious reasons, but I think it is in a way the way it is progressing. Again, India will never agree to it. I think the Australians will never agree to it. The Japanese would never say that. The US would never say that. But there is a reason why China thinks it's a threat, and we'll probably see some of the statements after the visit coming from the Chinese as well as to what we saw the last time around when Chinese criticized the Quad and its alliance and what is the agenda of having Quad.
Again, not a military alliance, but a very important aspect after that Jake Sullivan Rohit talks about is the border situation and China's actions in the region. So does that also specifically talk about or allude to the India-China border situation? Will that come up during the talks?
He brought it up, and he said the Prime Minister Modi, President Biden will directly hear from Prime Minister Modi on Russia and China, and and the regional conflict. So I'm assuming at this point in time we could fairly assume that that's one of the things they would want to talk about. Like the Chinese have not had a great relationship with India, especially after Galwan. That's come up in some conversations, but not as explicitly as what Jake Sullivan said today. And he mentioned that Prime Minister Modi will talk to Biden directly about it. It means that we could probably see a joint statement about that as well. Other aspect is, and that's something that on the background call yesterday that I was on, and it was alluded the fact that this did come up in a sense that after the aggression on the Indian border, Trump actually helped India with intelligence and everything India needed to cover its own borders in that region, the Himalayan region. So definitely, there is a lot of talks going behind the scene, and the fact that Jake Sullivan this morning talked about it, it means that we'll probably see something on that front from the Indians and as well as the Americans, especially when it comes to countering the Chinese aggression in the region.
Well, that's the big news that we're talking about right now. Apart from the fact that Prime Minister Modi is going to land in Delaware in some time from now, the big story over here: India-China border situation could come up during talks between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi. The other very important aspect is Biden will be directly in conversation with Prime Minister Modi on his Ukraine visit, Rohit. That has been a very important and contentious one. Jake Sullivan very clearly saying that India should step up its position when it comes to Russia. Elaborate on what was spoken on that front.
Yeah, very direct. We've always seen the Americans, sort of leaving to people to read between the lines, but not so much today. I think Jake Sullivan said that India should step up, and then he said, like any other country would, like any other sovereign country would, to stop I mean, not to stop the war, but basically step up against the Russian aggression. And the fact that Prime Minister Modi was in Russia, we saw Ajit Doval who was in Russia last week. So I think they will talk about that in those meetings. We've seen MEA talk about how there could be a path forward for diplomacy and maybe a peaceful solution in that war. But then again, that solution, I don't think there's a blueprint right now. But maybe they are working towards a blueprint, and the Americans are looking at the Indians to present them with some of the talks they've had with the Russians and Ukrainians. So I think we'll probably see some of that also come up in discussion when Prime Minister Modi meets with President Biden, and also during the Quad Summit, definitely highlighting the fact that India has a very crucial role to play in this war, and the Americans are looking at the Indians to do whatever they can to make sure that there's a peaceful resolution of this war.
Okay, Rohit, I know that in some time you'll have to go and speak and interact with the Indian community that's waiting outside. But how long before Prime Minister Modi really lands?
10:15 local time. Right now, it will be, I think, another 30 or 40 minutes. So we'll probably see the Prime Minister landing in Philadelphia, and then he'll make his way to Wilmington.
Okay. And why Wilmington? We know that this is Biden's hometown. Was that the reason why they were looking at a Quad Summit here, and the focus, bringing the focus to the democratic space, so to say, during elections?
Well, that's one interesting way to look at it, Geeta, because yes, this is election season, so one could probably look at it like that. But I think Jake Sullivan, at the top of his remarks, mentioned that Biden always says that all diplomacy is personal, all politics is personal, and he wanted to bring all these leaders to his home. This is his final Quad visit. He's going to be serving the end of his term in a couple of months. I think he's invested. He was definitely invested in Quad, and this is a way of him thanking the leaders for doing what they've done last couple of years. So opening his home, he's hosting all these leaders at his home. He hosted the Australian Prime Minister last night. He will be hosting the Indian and Japanese Prime Minister today. So this is Biden's way of thanking them, making sure that he leaves his personal touch in this visit. And I'm not sure if we want to read anything political into it, but I think this is just Joe Biden being Joe Biden, the person, that statement that he is. He just wanted to leave at a high note. And I think he'll probably end up doing that tonight.
Okay. Again, before I let you go, I know that there's very little time, but one last question before I let you go. In terms of the Indian community and the Indian diaspora, we're looking at a smaller number of people who live in Delaware, maybe, right outside the hotel. But in terms of the larger Indian community event that is going to take place on the 22nd of September, we'll try connecting with Rohit. He'll join us in just a bit. In terms of the larger, the 22nd
I think I lost
September.
her. I gotta go.
Well, Rohit, you're right here. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah.
I'm back.
One last question. The Indian community
I
event.
can't hear Geeta. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Just wanted to know. Okay.
Can't hear Geeta now. This is weird.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, you're on mute. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Rohit, can you hear me now?
I can't hear Geeta.
Okay, we'll try to fix that audio because we just wanted to know what the Indian community event is going to really look like. It is a very important event, and it's going to be a huge gathering of the Indian diaspora. Soft power policy agenda and a part of the soft power policy toolkit for India has been to engage the Indian diaspora, and that's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always tried to do in all his visits, whether it's the United States of America or any other part of the world. But it does come at the back of the Rahul Gandhi visit. A lot of controversy. Rohit himself has been a part of that entire controversial visit. But how much of it is going to really trickle down to what happens at the Indian community event is something we'll have to wait and see. We do not know whether we're going to get Rohit back at any point of time over here. Let me just check whether if Rohit is going to come back, and we'll try taking that one question from him, or we'll just get a feedback from him. But the fact is that this is a very, very important aspect when it comes to what happens in the United States of America. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not just going to hold that very important Quad summit. It will be followed by Summit for the Future. That's a United Nations event where global leaders are going to come and meet at the United Nations General Assembly Hall. Speeches will be delivered. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to deliver his speech at the Summit for the Future and not at the United Nations General Assembly session. And that's because the days between 22nd of September, when the event is going to unfold, to when the prime ministers are scheduled to speak at the UNGA is around 26th, 27th. That's it's almost a week in between. And so Prime Minister Modi cannot actually stay in the United States of America for that many days. Dr. Jaishankar will be representing India at the UNGA, and Prime Minister Modi will be attending the UN event of which is the Summit for the Future, which will be initiated by President Biden himself and followed by all leaders of the world. They'll be delivering the speech. Global governance, sustainability, the conflicts, all of them would be part of the conversations amongst these leaders to find solutions at a time when we are seeing the entire many parts of the world riddled with conflict, and how to resolve the conflict, how to find peace, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, or for that matter, the Israel-Hamas war. We'll try connecting with Rohit in some time from now, but for now, those are details that are coming in. We just broke two very important news. One, that Kamala Harris is likely to meet Narendra Modi. That's the Vice President's meeting with the Indian Premier. And the second very important one is that India-China border situation is going to be part of the conversations when the President of the United States of America meets Prime Minister Modi on the sidelines of the Quad Summit in Delaware. Thank you for watching India Today Global.